Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Tackle Talk Live. I'm Ranger Diver Pro Staffer Steve Graff, along with V&M General Manager Kevin Jean. And Kevin, we got a pretty good show today. If you want to know about Toledo Bend, today is your show. You're going to find out some insight about Toledo Bend, things that are going on over there, what's going on with the grass, what's going on with the fish, what's the population look like, what's the future look like. We've got a wildlife biologist coming on with us today, Kevin.
We do, and I'm really interested in that topic. Me being a homegrown Toledo Bend person, I'm wanting to know what's going forward. I tell you what, from these weights we've saw this fall on these previous tournaments, I'm real interested to hear what he has to say. But, you know, Steve, also we're going to preview the BASS Open coming up on Sam Rayburn 1 month from today.
Right.
We'll be kicking that event off. So kind of start talking about that event. And, man, we got some big news and topics coming up. The FLW regular season event starts tomorrow, their last regular season event. A lot of topics, a lot of stuff to carry, to go over today. But first of all, I want to say I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, hey.
You're never allowed to leave again. Don't make me do another show by myself. That was incredibly hard, and I didn't realize it.
I was hoping Emery's going to step up and
tried.
help you out.
I tried getting my little 9-year-old daughter to come on and talk, and she at first, she was like, all right, you're going to tell me? I said, I'll write the questions down what to ask.
Yeah.
You just ask them. And right when we got here, she's like, nope, I'm out. So
she got stage fright?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we need to get Alyssa. Maybe Alyssa can co-host.
No. We're not going there. We're not going with the wife.
That's his wife, by the way.
We're not going with the wife.
Alyssa would be really good on here, actually.
Yeah, she would. I wouldn't need a mic, I can tell you.
But anyway, moving around. Villas Dowden, by the way, is the wildlife fishery biologist we're going to have on today. The son of Bo Dowden, who actually is a realtor over at Toledo Bend, won the Bassmaster Classic back in 80 or 81, if I remember right. And brother Eason, we fish against Eason a lot. Great guy, great family. And looking forward to having Villas on today as well. And but we also, Kevin, we got a new sponsor.
We do. We started last week. Last week was our first time sponsoring the show.
Yeah.
Pride Rods.
Pride Rods.
Out of Montgomery, Texas. We're excited to have them part of it, part of the show and be sponsor show, and we appreciate everything them guys do.
And real quick, Kevin's going to start off with the boat shop.
Yes, the boat shop out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Raymond Kidd and his staff take great pride in keeping your boat and motor performing at its best. A certified Yamaha dealer and home of the best motor on the market today, the Yamaha Show. Also carry a great line of aluminum boats, the Sea Arc. So they also have a full support group Garmin dealer offering the electronics and the new Garmin trolling motor. So stop by 2410 Sanford Avenue in Shreveport and let the boat shop take care of all your boating needs. Or you can give them a call at 318-402-0399 or go to ShreveportBoatShop.com.
And also, I saw the first bass boat that he has put out with Sea Arc. They're rigging it out up there as we speak this week. Very impressed.
You got some Garmin's put on your boat.
Yeah, had a Garmin put on my
I've got
Garmin's
on mine. And
got the live scope, and looking forward to using it this week when I head to Sam Rayburn. But now I'm going to tell you about 3J's 4-Way. And John Abraham and the guys down at Cypress Knee, 3J's 4-Way. Cypress Knee is the bait and tackle shop and hunting store all rolled into one right there in 3J's 4-Way. If you're looking for, dove season's coming up, guys. If you're looking for ammunition, if you're looking for a shotgun, looking to start a youngster out with a shotgun, they've got a great selection of guns and ammo right there, a great shotgun that would fit your son or daughter. And so make sure you check it out. Go down to the Cypress Knee Outdoors. Tell them you heard about them on Tackle Talk Live. And they'd love to help you out. And if you need fishing tackle, if you need spinner baits, jigs, worms, V&M product, you name it, they got it. They got the best of the best right there at Cypress Knee Outdoors. So make sure you walk in there, and while you're in there, pick you up a couple of Crispitos. Couple of meat pies.
The deli's where it's at.
The deli. I'm telling you, the deli is where it's at.
For all you guys coming from South Louisiana to Toledo Bend that take the Natchitoches exit, it's about 4 miles south of, south of the Natchitoches exit.
Right on Highway 1.
It's half a mile off the interstate. You can stop in and get your bait, your tackle, your food for the day, for the lake, and get on over to Toledo Bend.
And if you want to call them, give them a call at 318-238-HUNT. That's 238-HUNT. And ask for the bait and tackle section of Cypress and the Outdoors, and they will put you in touch with either John or one of the guys there that'll help you with whatever needs you have. So, Kevin?
Pride Rods, new sponsor of the show we're proud to have. American made and custom built here in Montgomery, Texas. The finest rods ever made by Mr. Billy Kistler. Construction by the finest North Fork composite blank by Mr. Gary Loomis. They carry all your freshwater and saltwater applications for spinning and casting rods. Pride Rods, they definitely pass the eye test, but they surpass the test of performance even more. Stop by your local tackle store and pick up one, or simply ask about Pride Rods. You can also go online at priderods.com or call 832-418-6040 or 936-697-4149.
And on the phone with us, we have Villas Dowden, wildlife fishery biologist there for Toledo Bend and in this region. Villas has even done work on Red River, some of the local area waterways. He's one of the guys that will perform shock tests, do estimates, check on grass situations. He's a full-fledged biologist. Villas, we are so happy to have you on the show because a lot of people are tuned in today and they want to know what's going on at Toledo Bend. We've heard all kind of and seen results, rumors and tournament results and what's happened to the fishing at Toledo and blah, blah, all the whining going on I'm sure you hear about it. But Villas, give us a little detail as to kind of what's happening as we speak in the month of August on Toledo Bend.
Okay. Well, this year we're still running our 3-year assessment for both bass and crappie, our population assessment for bass and crappie for Toledo Bend. Of course, everybody knows this time of year, it's that time of year where you're fishing at night. It's pretty hard during the daytime. You can still catch the fish in the daytime. It's just extremely hard.
Right.
Bass fishing's it's so-so. You're catching some good fish, but they're very, very scattered. They're very sporadic and just all spread out.
Villas, is the fact that it is so tough in the daytime, is it that they're just not feeding? Is it the lack of forage? What is it? Too much forage? What constitutes why they're not biting much during the daytime right now?
Well, if they're not biting during the daytime, they're just not as active during this time of year during the heat of the day. That's the main thing. That's just the way it's always been. Is there too much forage? There's never enough forage for bass. They're just going to bite at certain times of the day. Mm-hmm. What kicks them in? It's just could be moon phase. It could be activity, cooler water temperatures.
That first fall front comes through.
Right. Just anything that just spurs them off to biting a little bit. Cooler daytime temperatures, rainfall, etc.
Villas, I'm sorry to cut you off there. When is the last shock test or data y'all have received from Toledo Bend?
It was this last spring. We just concluded the third year of our 3-year population assessment for bass, largemouth bass specifically. We're going into the fall for crappie this fall, so we're finishing off this fall. But this last spring was it for Toledo Bend, and that was the last time we did a 3-year assessment was from 2010 through 12. So this was the first time in 6 years that we've completed that 3-year mortality or age and growth mortality. They used to call it that, but it's a population assessment now.
And what's been the results of some of those tests?
For the last 3 years, in 2018, we always go by catch per unit effort, which is catch per hour. And the numbers I'm looking at right here, this is total number of bass. This is for all size classes, small fish to large fish. For 2018, we saw an average of 130 fish per hour. Now we usually run 15-minute sets, so that would be if you divide that by 4, that would be a little bit less than about.
I was told there would be no math, Steve.
Right, but in 2019 we actually saw 208 fish per hour per pedal hour. That's right. The time that we're shocking. That was the most fish that I've seen since I started working here in 2006.
Now, is that in a particular section of the lake? Is that north, middle, south?
No, that's all up and down the lake.
Okay.
nets
Okay.
from the dam all the way up to the Oak Ridge Park area.
Okay.
What was 20? That was 2019. What was 2020's?
2020 was 133
Ooh.
bass per hour. So last year we had a little bit higher catch per unit effort. And that's just like when you're fishing with a rod and reel. If you have the right conditions, you're going to see more fish. You're going to catch more fish. So this year we had higher water conditions. Last year they were a little bit lower, so the bass that we saw were closer to the edges of the bushes. They couldn't. You could find them a little bit easier. In the year before, in 2018, you also had higher water conditions, so the fish are going to spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Bank line, they're there. You just can't see them as well. You can't find them as well. They're hiding from us, just like they're hiding from somebody else with a rod and reel a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, for comparison's sake, if we go back to 2012, when we wrapped up a 3-year study, then we saw 141 bass per hour. That's mean numbers per hour. So that's right in line with the numbers that we saw 6 and 7 years ago.
And that was right before the lake just took off.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's good to know we're not far off them numbers.
Right. And once again, we got Villas Dowden on, the wildlife fishery biologist for Toledo Bend area, and Villas has given us some good insight as to kind of what's going on. Now, Villas, one question I've gotten, some guys have actually asked me, even here on Sibley Lake, some years they just absolutely wear the white perch out February and March, and just you'll see 28 boats out here in the middle of Sibley Lake, and they're all bringing in full limits. Can you outfish a lake on white perch?
No, we have never seen that. As a matter of fact, last year there was actually some emphasis on actually lowering the limits on Sibley Lake, specifically for crappie, because you do see a lot of activity during those few months.
Yeah.
Specifically in January, when everything's close to the creek, when it's really at its coldest and everything's concentrated in that deeper water. But at the same time, if you have a lake that's really has a high population of crappie, where they're almost eating themselves out of house and home, when you got a large population of smaller size crappie, it's actually a good thing to go ahead and thin them out to some degree. You're thinning out some of the competition for whatever resources are in that smaller lake.
What has been your crappie results? I know you say you do it in the fall. You haven't done it for 2020, but you've done one the last 2 years. Just interested because the crappie fishing on Toledo Bend is just taking off all the guides.
Yeah.
What's been your crappie results from your shock test the last 2 years?
Well, we actually run nets for crappie. We don't shock specifically for crappie. We run what we call bead nets. And we catch a little bit of everything in there, but we're trying to target crappie. But the last 3 or 4 or the last 2 years, we've actually seen a few smaller numbers of crappie that we're seeing in our nets, but we're seeing larger sizes. And some of those are probably some of those kickoffs from some of those good years from probably following 2014, 15, or 16.
Right.
But eventually that group of fish are going to start falling off, and you're going to start seeing some smaller fish once again. Maybe a few more numbers, but they may be a little bit smaller.
Now, Villas, if you had to, let's rate Toledo Bend from 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Right now, where would you say bass fishing wise, Toledo Bend, as far as your results from your shock tests, where would you rank Toledo Bend right now on fishing quality?
As compared to which other lakes?
Just rank it.
Yeah, just
okay.
Any of them.
It's definitely still in the top 10 or 12 in all central states in the United States. If you go all the way from, let's say, from Minnesota all the way down to the Gulf Coast area, Texas, Louisiana, all the way up to Minnesota. It may be in the lower numbers now, 8 to 9 or 10 or so.
Right.
Maybe even a 12 in somebody's book, but just like in the past, it's liable to come back. You just have to have the right conditions to kick all these numbers off where they can grow a little bit better.
Well, talking about conditions and habitat, hydrilla. Villas, I was born and raised in Toledo Bend. I've been fishing it my whole entire life. This is the longest span that I know of since I've been around. I'm 35 years old that the lake has gone without grass, without a good, healthy grass growing in most of the lake. Let me get your opinion on that.
Correct, and it's not just hydrilla. We're missing a lot of native
Correct.
vegetation
Correct.
here right now too. That for reasons unknown to us, there are some conditions that it's just not growing as well as it used to, and it could be possibly heavy metals. It could be some turbidity issues, which is what we're leaning towards. Everybody wants to blame treatments, herbicides, and we used to treat giant salvinia quite a bit on the lake 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Right.
But of course, with a lack of other vegetation, we've lost a lot of the salvinia, so we haven't had the need to go out there and treat a lot of the salvinia over the last 4 years, specifically since the flood of 2016.
Does the chemical that you're spraying, so let's dispel some myths here, unless it's true, does the chemical you're spraying for salvinia, does it also eliminate hydrilla or hay grass? If it gets on it, does it kill whatever it touches?
No, sir. There is one component that we do mix, and that is glyphosate with our older mixture that we used to treat with, and you have to really stay on torpedo grass, what some people call the hay grass. You have to stay on it to actually reach down to the rhizome and the root to kill it. Now, as far as submerged aquatic vegetation, hydrilla, pineweed, eelgrass, nothing that we're treating with right now is a submerged. It's not an injection or a whole water body treatment.
Okay,
it's just
right.
Well, that's what the anglers are saying. Oh, they're doing all this spraying. They've killed all the grass in the lake with all this spraying they're doing. And I always wondered, I thought, surely there's a different type of spraying that takes place to control hydrilla than it does a top water plant like salvinia or water hyacinth or whatever.
Correct. In order to control hydrilla or any kind of submerged aquatic vegetation, you have to actually use either pelletized aquathol or else liquid aquathol K, and that's actually an injection treatment or else a pelletized treatment, which you have to reach down to the bottom layers of the bottom itself and inject it into the water column. Once we treat a foliar treatment like we do with salvinia, once it goes down 1 or 2 inches below the water surface, it's completely dissipated.
Right. Now, another thing you and I have talked about before, Villas, is the fact that, with the hydrilla, being gone or disappearing, one of the things you said, in order for that to come back, we need some low water levels. You need that water to go down where that sunlight can penetrate and regenerate some of that grass that's on the bottom and bring the lake back. And that's how the low water periods are really beneficial for hydrilla, correct?
It is, specifically when you have really low water conditions for a while. That way you can actually recycle some of the nutrients. You get some of the decaying materials off of the terrestrial vegetation. You recycle those nutrients on the bottom. That way you can actually get a little bit of spur off some. If you do have some seed materials, whether it's tubers and turions from hydrilla. Now we haven't really seen a lot of growth this year after we had that 7-foot drawdown this last year, which we were hoping.
Right.
Which is making me think that we're having a lot more turbidity issues than we used to have.
Now go into that. Explain what you're really meaning by that.
Yeah.
Turbidity issues?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're getting into a lot of watershed management issues when we're getting into that. I'm talking about all the drainages, anything that runs off of the landscape, that runs into the watershed itself.
Okay.
And
so you're not talking about the generating of electricity. You're talking about natural causes.
Inflow from rainfall.
Yeah.
Land issues, specifically a lot of silvicultural or intensive silvicultural issues with forestry, and it could be some of this shear rake and plow that you do see going on right now, where they're actually bedding the soil for plantings. It could be lack of streamside management zones where you don't have a buffer of 50 feet or greater, and of course, if you have a lot of intensive silviculture where they're cutting or clear cutting a stand where it's 30 years or less, you're going to have a lot more turbidity issues going into your creeks. And especially if the Sabine River Authority does actually have to open up their spillway gates during high inflow issues where they have a lot of rainfall, they're going to be pulling a lot of that dirtier water out, not only through the creeks, but out into the whole lake itself, all the way down to the dam.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's pulling it all out of the backwater, pulling it out,
Right.
and it runs all the way down the lake. Okay.
Have a lot more shading throughout the whole lake than you used to have.
Right. Okay. Well, one thing, Bill, we was talking about, being tough and tough fishing right now and everything, and we have been surprised and I don't know if you've paid attention or have seen the weights from the tournaments this fall here on Toledo Bend. Mid-July, the Sealeys, it was taking a 4-pounder in the middle of July to get a check.
Just get a check
on Toledo Bend. There was a ton of 4 to 6 pounders weighed in. Bass Champs, it took 22 pounds with 3 fish to win 2 weeks ago. It took 11.5 pounds again with 3 fish to get a check. There's some really nice size being caught right now. I don't know if there's a whole lot of fish getting caught, but there's some really nice size being caught right now.
No, it sounds like it's tough to get a lot of bites.
Correct.
If you're a fish, you can catch some good ones, but you really have to know what you're doing with your electronics. You have to spend a lot of time on the water, and it's not like you used to. You could go along a grass line, and you're going to get a few bites every day.
Yeah, but again, we these same guys. It just to me, it feels like this is a better fall than we normally have on Toledo Bend, and I'm hoping that's positive
going into fall.
Going into the fall, right here in the middle of the summer. I hope that's positives for going into the fall and for the spring of next year. The size of quality of fish we're seeing right now.
Well, following this last year's low water period where it got down to about 7 feet, we did have some of those. A little bit of growth along the shoreline, so we're probably going to see a little bit higher growth in the next year or two than we did.
Fingers crossed.
When the lake was a little bit more static for such a long time. So we should start seeing an increase in larger fish. We may not see as many fish being caught as we did 5 or 6 years ago, but we should see a kickoff of a few larger fish.
Villas, another question I've got. I want to compare 2 bodies of water, Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend. I know for Sam Rayburn, and one of the things that a lot of the, quote, guides or pros think the reason why the fishing is so good on Rayburn is we had high water periods during the spawn where people couldn't really get to those bass that were spawning because they were so far up in the woods they couldn't get to them. Toledo Bend, is that one of the reasons Toledo Bend was so good? There was a 2 or 3 year period back in 14 and 15,
16.
where they had high water spawns and all of a sudden the lake jumped. The next year or two it was hot as a pistol. How important is high water to a spawning period?
Having habitat where all your young of the year fish can actually hide from your prey fish, or you can actually, when you can have your adult fish hide from anglers, is a very important situation to kick off a lot of fish. If you have a low water period during the springtime, chances are you're not going to have as a good a year small age class of fish that are kicked off. That's definitely very important to have a lot of high water, either high water or good habitat during the spawn or following the spawn or spawning conditions.
Well, we've had that the last 2 years on Toledo. I felt like we've had high water at the right time, and I've hoped, I don't know if you've got any content to relate to this, but I've hoped that's helped the spawn the last 2 years on Toledo because we've had high water.
It did, no doubt that it did, because we saw a lot of younger one age class fish this last year.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably smaller fish that got spawned in 2018.
Right.
Or they got kicked off and hatched during 2018 when we had good high water conditions.
Yeah.
But if you do have low water conditions, there's no doubt that you're not going to have as good a natural spawn on any body of water.
Villas, anything else you want to add to kind of let the people fishing Toledo Bend or even Sam Rayburn, any news that you want to tell them, hey, the future's bright, or it could be a little tough for a while, anything you want to add?
Well, I do want to mention that we are going to be doing we're looking into doing some propagation for some submerged aquatic vegetation. We're going to just try that. We're going to be looking into that. doing some plantings just to see what happens. I'm afraid that if it is some turbidity issues,
you'll lose them.
If this doesn't take off, then we'll know for a fact that the lake's got something going on.
Now,
with
when
it.
are y'all possibly planning on trying to do that?
Sometime within the next few months. We're just looking into it right now.
Right.
Now, Villas, another thing I've noticed on the Texas side of Toledo Bend, which a lot of people will tell you, Texas has not done a good as job as developing the land mass on the Texas side of Toledo as Louisiana has. I'm seeing more development on the Texas side now. Could that be contributing to places like 6 Mile and Housing not having the grass they used to have because of turbidity?
Well, you have to remember that a lot of the Texas side is actually surrounded by the Sabine National Forest, so they're limited over there as far as development. There are some areas that they can develop, and of course you have the middle part on the Louisiana side where development first started back in the late 70s, 80s, and that's where you first started seeing a lot of the bulkheads and the marinas and everything else coming. That's, of course, where we started seeing a lot of the grass starting to get lost back in the 90s also, when we started having a lot of inflow, and we had a lot of development in there.
Well, I tell you, I'm excited and glad to hear y'all are looking into the planning, and hoping and helping us try to get some grass, and not only hydrilla, but everything else that's needed along the shorelines back. I'm really glad to hear that and excited about that for sure.
Well, we're not going to be able to probably propagate hydrilla since it is an exotic.
Correct.
We don't have anything against it.
Right.
We have never tried to actually treat hydrilla in Toledo Bend ever. That's another misconception.
Right, just other shoreline.
But if it gets going, matter of fact, if it ever gets to where it was in the mid '90s, we'd be jumping up with joy.
So would the fishermen, I promise you.
Yeah.
If we ever saw it down where it's growing down to 20 to 25 feet, that would be great. I don't know if it ever will or not, but we would definitely not have anything against that.
Villas, we appreciate you being with us today, man. Thank you for all your insight and information. You guys are doing a wonderful job. You don't get enough credit, first of all, and I want to give you the credit because, again, it's not just Toledo Bend that these guys are managing, folks. They're managing places like Red River. They're doing shock tests on different lakes, Sibley Lake, Black Lake, all your area lakes and waterways in this region. Villas and his guys and a lot of other guys are involved in this, and they're the guys that's making the lakes either, helping them to be great if they are great and keep them great. So, again, Villas, we appreciate your effort. Thank you for all your time, and thank you for being with us today.
All right, thank you, Steve.
All right, Villas Dowden, wildlife fishery biologist, and over there at Toledo Bend, and got some good insight, and he gave us some good information. And,
really did.
They know that they're looking to maybe plant some grass and different things in different regions like to see if they'll take hold.
They're wanting, they're wanting this to happen as much as we are. They
doubt.
need it as bad as the fishermen need it. So that's good to hear from their side that the things they're doing to hopefully help that out for sure. So, and
again, we want to thank the Boat Shop, 3J's 4-Way, and Pride Rods for sponsoring our show. And we're going into the next segment of the show here. BAS Open's coming to Rayburn, Kevin, September 10th and 11th and 12th.
This is
your thoughts?
Interesting event.
Yeah.
It's an interesting date. Early September. Still going to be hot.
I was going to say, we're still basically summer pattern at that point, I would think.
Yes and no, Steve. So, yes, you're still going to have some summer patterns. The deep fish, the brush piles is going to happen. But we're already getting reports and fishing ourselves and hearing that the shallow water bite is really starting to become a player. You can always go shallow and catch a fish on Sam Rayburn, period.
Right.
I don't care what time of year it is.
Right.
But can you compete in a tournament shallow? And we're hearing that is starting, the shallow fish is starting to compete in tournaments already.
Right.
So we're a month away. I feel like that bite's only going to get better.
Right.
So.
Question. Do you think pressure in the deeper water holes now has actually pushed them fish up to get away from that pressure? It used to be everybody fish shallow.
Everybody's got their opinion on that, Steve. Yeah. But, there's pressure pushing up. Every year on Sam Rayburn, this happens.
Right.
The fish move out in May or June. They run out there, they get in the brush piles, they do their thing, and all of a sudden, right before summer starts to end, they start working their way back shallow.
Right.
And you hear it's 95 degrees outside and people is catching them shallow on a frog.
Right.
I don't know why. None of us really know why those fish turn around and go back so early before it gets cold.
Probably
but they
has
do.
to do with bait fish pulling up.
Bait fish getting ready
They're
for
gonna follow the bait
do they
fish.
know the fall's coming? The
Right.
bait fish are starting
Right.
to go. So, there's a lot that goes in that. But the thing about it being this time of year, September and October, it's not going to be everybody on the bank. It's not going to be everybody deep. People are going to be able to spread out in this event and do what they want. There's grass. There's good, healthy grass at Sam Rayburn.
Right.
There's good shoreline vegetation for frog fishing. Then you got your deep ridges, and then you got your brush piles. And there will be people doing all four of those.
Yep,
You know,
exactly.
so
Weight estimates, 3-day tournament. Got to average 22 pounds a day. 20 won't get it out on. I don't think 20 will get it done a day. You got to have more than. I don't think
September?
so. I'm just basing. These guys are great anglers that are coming in here.
There's going to be a big bag. There's going
Yeah.
to be a 23, 24, 25 pound bag weight.
Yeah. I'm thinking you got to average 21 to 22 a day to win.
I wouldn't argue against that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue
I just
against
don't think
that
20
for
pounds
the.
a day will get it done. Just if you had 60 pounds for 3 days, I think you're still going to be a little short.
In September, Steve, I don't know. Somebody's going to have a 24, 25 pound bag, and then
Right.
day 2, they're going to have 16.
Right.
That's just Rayburn
Yeah.
in September. So it's hard to say weight wise. We've got a month to go. You
Right.
know, there's a lot of things going to happen in a month. It's just hard to say weight wise, but I can definitely see. I could see 20 having to take 21 a day because somebody's gonna have that mega 24 pound bag and then maybe back it up with 218, something like that, to win it. So yeah, I can definitely see that.
And real quick, we give the results right here. We have the super tournament.
Yeah, the FLW.
Did you give that last week?
What's that?
Did you give the results from
Yes, we went over all
okay.
the
All right,
results
well,
from
never
that. So starting tomorrow is the last regular season FLW event on Lake Erie, up north. So everybody's jockeying for position to finish out the year. Top 50 fish the FLW championship, and all of our local guys are right there, toughing it out, fishing in. Locals, Daryl Gleason is setting 53rd in points.
Right.
Tommy Dickerson is setting 55th in points, and Nick LeBrun is setting 61st in points.
Yeah.
So top 50 fish the championship.
Right.
And which,
So a good finish by any one of these three, and they have a shot to get in.
talking to Daryl and talking to Nick, I'm thinking they're thinking they need to get a top 50 finish. Now this is a super tournament, so
Yeah,
all the
right.
MLF guys are fishing too.
Right.
So they're all thinking I need a top 50 finish to get me in to the top 50 overall in points to fish the championship. Now remember, the championship will be a MLF format championship.
Right.
So personally, somebody like Daryl and somebody like Nick who I think would do very well fishing those formats. If they get in, I'll be real excited to see them get in and fish that format.
Right, no doubt. Other news, real quick, we just want to touch on this real quick. Keith Poche was actually disqualified in the last super tournament on the Mississippi River. Keith actually posted on his Facebook page some comments about why he was disqualified. Keith did own up to it. He said it's his fault. It just goes to prove to all you anglers out there, you've got to read the rules, guys. Know the rules. Keith, again, whether it's a good rule or a bad rule is your opinion. It's Keith's opinion. Keith didn't like the rule. What happened was he was fishing out of an underpowered aluminum boat powered with a 90 horse, and there's a minimum horsepower rule on FLW Tour of 150. Keith didn't know the rule, never saw the rule, and actually fished day one.
Had 13 pounds, sitting top 10.
And even the tournament directors, as he idled by for takeoff, didn't know the rule until it was brought to their attention by another angler at the weigh-in that evening and that afternoon late. And they actually confirmed with FLW headquarters, is this a rule? Sure enough, it's rule number 12 in the rules, and you have to have at least a 150, so Keith had to pull away.
So the reasoning for this rule is you don't want to allow too small of a boat on a lot of these, like the Mississippi River, Red River, so on and so forth, that you can get in areas the larger boats cannot get into. This rule actually started here on Red River,
Right.
when John Cox won
Yep.
the event here out of a small boat that he could get into the backwaters with,
Right.
that regular boats could not get into. So that's where that rule came from. I understand it.
Yeah. It's intended to level the playing field. Is what the intent is.
It intends for people who don't have to drag a 12-foot, 50 horsepower motor all over the country with them.
Right,
They
right.
take one boat, you fish out of the boat all year. It levels the playing field, as you said.
Yeah.
So I understand the rule, but also I've never heard of that rule before.
Right.
It's not on any other circuit, so I understand where Keith didn't check it. But this makes everybody aware now moving forward.
Yeah. Once again, read the rules, and whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's a good rule or bad rule, it is a rule. So it's in black and white. But anyway, again, Keith did own to it. He said it was his fault. He should have read the rules, and he's moved on. And Keith will continue to participate in the MLF tour and do his thing there. So, but next thing. I think you've got a situation that's popped up for V&M Baits in a tournament that you've done for I don't know how many years now. You've had to make a change. Yeah,
we did. This morning we released a statement on social media that we did cancel for this year the V&M Baits tournament on Sam Rayburn.
Not due to COVID-19.
Well, somewhat due to COVID-19. It's half and half. It's a scheduling conflict. I'm gonna go ahead and let this out of the bag. We got together with Outlaw Outdoors. I talked with them last December, January, I believe, and we set a date. We said it was September 25th, 26th, I believe, that weekend, and we reserved the Humphrey Pavilion for that weekend to have the V&M Baits tournament.
Right.
Lo and behold, about February, March, I see the schedule release for the BFLs, and it's on that weekend at Humphrey Pavilion. So I fished the BFLs. I called the tournament director there, and he said, Kevin, I had no idea y'all had it. We called Humphrey, and they didn't have anything on the calendar for that weekend. So I got it. And he printed it on all of his bulletins and everything, and I told him, I said, You go ahead. You've already printed it on the bulletins, the FLW and everything. You do what you got to do. I'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
So we've been going back and forth. Honestly, so then COVID happened. So everything's up in the air then. What's going to happen with the tournament? COVID's happening. So do we move it? Do we move it to Sunday? I really wanted to have the tournament on Saturday. Do we move it to Sunday? Do we move it to Castle Boykins?
Yeah, other end of the lake.
But you start moving to Castle Boykins, and that's where you get into COVID restrictions. If by then, for some reason, we go back to having to have a drive-in weigh-in or something, you can't do it at Castle Boykins.
Right.
You
Much
can't
better
do a
at
drive-in
Humphrey.
at Castle
Exactly.
Boykins. So now that the scheduling conflict errors that we had, there's no other open dates to have it on.
Right.
That are good open dates. The V&M tournament has progressed so far, so quick, and has had really good turnouts. Every year. Last year we had right at 100 boats. We want to make sure this thing keeps going forward. We don't want to go backwards a year. So we don't want to have the tournament and have two tournaments going on out of the same place. We don't want to do all that. So just with everything going on, we decided, with everything going on this year, we're just going to step back.
Right.
We'll make 2021 bigger and better than the V&M's ever had before.
Yeah, there you go. So you got it from the horse's mouth right there. You heard the exact information, what happened, why it happened, and also got a little story I want to bring to light. At the last tournament, that the Elite Series tournament, that Brandon Pollonick actually won this event. On the final day, Seth Fighter, who finished I think second or third in this event,
Second. To Brandon Pollonick.
Yeah, to Brandon Pollonick. Was on his way in. The Lake Champlain was extremely brutal. It was rough. His electronics, 2 units that are attached to each other, mounted on the same bracket, got knocked completely off his boat. Into the lake they went. He ended up losing them off his boat. When he got in, they were no longer attached. Cables were snapped. Everything was gone. And Brandon does his way in, wins the tournament. And as he is looking at his phone with congratulatory comments, people texting him, he had one text that asked him, did he lose some electronics? And he said, no, but I know a guy that did. And turns out a guy that Brandon Pollonick met at his first Bassmaster Classic in New Orleans. They actually went out to dinner with him. They went out and had a few drinks together, had a party together. They had a good time. This same guy found the electronics floating by an island on Lake Champlain, recovered them, brought them to Brandon, and they were returned back to Seth Fighter. It was a Humminbird Solex and a Humminbird.
How?
Yeah, Helix, and the Helix actually worked when they plugged
Steve,
it in.
he had to have dropped those in 100-foot water.
Oh yeah, the Helix actually floats, and he thinks it was enough ability to float that whole bracket and all, which was probably 30 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Of electronics. And anyway, it's a miracle, but they did find them around some special island out there that they say a lot of things wash up on. The guy found them, returned them, and thank you to that guy for turning them in. He could easily have kept those.
Absolutely.
And but he did the right thing and turned them in. So just a neat story to think that when you're in 50, 60 foot of water and your electronics come off your boat, I would think that's gone.
Then they wash up.
Yeah, that's $5,000 or $8,000 worth of electric gone. So, but anyway, they wash up, and it's just a cool story. So you can go on bassmaster.com and read all about that story if you want to check it out.
Again, one more time, thanks to our sponsors. The Boat Shop right there in Shreveport is a full Garmin dealer for you guys with the new Garmin trolling motors. They can work on them. They can fix them, all your Garmin units. You can buy your Garmin units from there. They have the Sea Arc aluminum boats. Also, then 3J's 4-Way south of Natchez here from all you South Louisiana guys coming up. Make sure and stop in at 3J's, grab you a bite to eat, grab you some V&M baits and before you get on over to Toledo Bend. And last but not least, Pride Rods, made right here in Texas, in Montgomery, Texas, right around Houston. It's a really good rod. It's up and coming, and they're making some big waves over there at Pride Rods. So shout out to all those guys, and we really appreciate our sponsors, and as they come on, we couldn't do it without you.
Another thing too, with Raymond Kidd up there at the boat shop, they're a Minn Kota dealer as well. And the Raptor that has just come out by Minn Kota has actually been delayed on release. We don't know the details on that, but suppose there's been a delay on them releasing the Raptor out there, which is almost a duplicate of the Power Pole. I have no idea. I'm not starting any rumors. I don't know if it's infringement, patent infringements, or who knows what it is. Maybe nothing at all related to that. But anyway, I just know they have delayed the release for those of you that may be looking to buy the Raptor. They're going to be hard to get for a little bit anyway. ABA tournament. There's the ABA Bass Pro Shop Open Series Makeup Tournament. It's the August the 15th out of Humphrey Pavilion. That's this coming weekend before the circuit heads to Lake Texoma, September 12th and 13th for this 2-day championship, which I think involves one or two other circuits as well. The championship will be at Lake Texoma again in September. Kevin, I think we got Sealy coming up.
The Sealy's coming up on Lake Fort, September 18th, 19th, and 20th. Again, we had the Open September 10th, the weekend before that on Sam Rayburn. Then Lake Fort, Sealy, September 18th, 19th, and 20th.
And the Cowboy Division of the BFL will have its Super Tournament 2-day championship, which you have to kind of qualify for that. You have to fish so many events to be in that. That's on Rayburn, September 26th and 27th. September's going to be a busy month. A lot of tournaments. You're getting your championship time of year with regionals and nationals and tournaments, divisional tournaments taking place. So September is pretty busy, and part of October will be busy all the way into early November this year.
And the Bass Champs 2021 schedule is out. So all of you that want to make your plans for that event, coming into September, October, more and more schedules will get released, but Bass Champs on top of things over there, their 2021 schedule is out and available right now.
All right, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. And we can't say thank you enough to all of you guys that are tuning us in. We had, I think, almost 75 people tuned in today on our Facebook Live. Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. We're hoping that we're giving you what you're wanting, and that's what we feel like our job is, to try to provide you insight and information that will help you on these bodies of water with people that are dedicated, like Villas Dowden. I want to thank Villas again today for coming on and giving us some great statistics and information about Toledo Bend and where it's headed. And so looking forward to, once again, this time of year, it's just tough fishing, Kevin.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care where you go. You can go to the greatest body of water in America.
Unless you're in New York.
Yeah. Unless you're up north. Down south, it is tough in August. August is probably our worst month to deal with. And so hope we're halfway through the month of August, basically, or getting there. And hopefully it'll just get better from this point on. And but anyway, again, thank you. Thank you to all of our sponsors, 3J's 4-Way, Cypress in the Outdoors, the Boat Shop, and Pride Rods. We can't say thank you enough. Again, if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of our show, make sure you message us either to me or Kevin or on our Facebook page, the Tackle Talk Live. Send us a message. Say, hey, we'll send you a packet. Kevin's got all the information for you, and make sure you get a copy of it, and we'll move forward from there.
Good to go.
Anything else?
I think that's it for the week.
Again, if you want to continue to be a better angler, you've got to continue to watch Tackle Talk Live.